Hello everyone, thank you for joining us for Growth in Green, Opportunities for Sustainable Packaging. This is an exclusive, on-demand webinar from FreshLock. I'm Brzozowski. I'll be your host over the next 30 minutes as we explore what's become a very important and exciting topic. We'll be taking a look at trends, challenges, and inspiring stories to help you understand sustainability and inform your packaging decisions. Sustainability is an issue that impacts brands, packagers, consumers alike. Each of these stakeholders plays a role in sustainable packaging, but all of us stand to benefit. Joining me today to provide some insights is our special guest and packaging expert, Todd Meussling of FreshLock. Todd, thank you so much for joining us. Why is packaging so important to you, and why do you choose to put your energy towards it?
Well, for a lot of my career, I've been involved with projects with large companies and brands associated with putting packaging out into the marketplace. And over the years, a lot of those packages probably ended up in landfills, and that's part of what the conversation's about. So I see that now we're at a place in packaging where we can change that story. And not only can we ensure that packaging can continue to provide benefits to people, but we can design it in a way that eliminates harm toward the environment, and it's exciting to me to be a part of that.
Sustainability is more than a buzzword. Consumers are starting to expect responsible packaging from brands. Why do you think there's so much force behind this topic now versus a few years ago?
So in the early 70s, when I was young, I remember a public service campaign that was sponsored called Make America Beautiful. And there would be a commercial or a PSA with a Native American, and he was canoeing down a river in modern society and looking around him. And he would see the sewage coming out of pipes and litter floating in the river. And the caption would say, "People cause pollution, and only people can prevent pollution." And at the end of the spot, it would have a close-up of the Native American, and you would see this tear coming down his face. And that caused me, as I was growing up, every time I had an option of what I could do with garbage, I would want to toss it away properly. Now in the 90s, fast forward, I moved to Chicagoland, and it's the first time I've ever seen a recycle bin. And people are using it to put paper and other products, out for curbside recycling. And you pick up these habits along the way. Now we see, due to technology, the Internet of Things, the impact from social media, that there's much more visibility than there ever has been. We see the effects of consequences of an unsustainable world. We see the effects of carbon output. Every year we're seeing something in our climate, a more severe storm or brush fires someplace. Just the other day, there was a news article about Victor Vescovo, and he is a human being that has broken a new record by going down 35,000 feet to the ocean floor in the Pacific in the Mariana Trench. And he's there as a scientist to look at what takes place, chart the bottom of the seafloor, and one of the things that he comes across is a plastic bag and candy wrappers. And I'm paraphrasing, but one interviewer asked him, how did that make you feel? And he said it actually made him feel hopeful, because by bringing visibility to something like this, we now know what we have to do to change it.
So you feel like this subject is contagious? It's picking up steam with all of this media attention that we're getting around sustainability, plastics in our waters and our oceans?
Definitely. I think the subject is contagious. As more sustainability advancements emerge and consumers see what we can build in terms of products that are beneficial and circular, they will expect more. And in turn, they will expect that from the retailers, they will expect that from the brands, and it will go all the way up to what we call extended producers. And the 2030 Agenda, which is a UN-sponsored charter that consists of endorsements from 160 countries, 12,000 signatories, and non-governmental organizations. and it consists of global objectives for the economy, the environment, and our society. There's also a consumer push. As aging generations that want the best for their children and future generations, younger generations are more passionate about creating a better planet. In fact, 83% of millennials and 62% of baby boomers think it's very important to find companies that implement programs to improve the environment. And frankly, the subject is contagious. As more sustainability advancements emerge and consumers see that we can build products that are sustainable, they expect it more. They expect it more from their retailers, and the retailers expect it more from the brands, and that goes upstream all the way to the food stock producers.
And you've been writing on it a little bit. I saw your recent article in Packaging Strategies magazine. You mentioned Ellen MacArthur's circular economy and how it relates to packaging. How did MacArthur come up with this, and why is it important?
So Ellen MacArthur, in 2005, she broke a record for solo circumnavigation of the globe in a vessel. And in order to go around the world in a yacht, MacArthur refers back that they had to be so swift and so lean. So all the supplies that she had to be well thought out. Everything that she put on board that boat had to be designed not only for its initial purpose, but for secondary purposes as well. And anything that was not needed would slow her chances down. So the circular economy is based on a concept that actually started in the 60s and has evolved over the years. And in 2010, Ellen MacArthur had a foundation, and the purpose was to create broad appeal and visibility to the circular economy. And it shows that not only is it imperative for our future, but a circular economy can also provide opportunity and economic benefit. And the foundation, by having this, has created a lot of acceleration to circularity in the movement.
How does the circular economy differ from what's happening today?
Well, today we utilize what's known as a linear economy, in which we're taking a resource, we're making a product from it, distributing it, using it, and then we have waste that's generated from that product. And instead, what we need to do is design a way to phase out the waste and pollution aspect of it so that we can build in the next stage of life for the package. So rather than go from a take, make, use, and waste model, we want to close the loop and go into more of a make, use, recover, and then remake model.
So what would you say is the current reality of sustainability and recycling in plastics?
Well, the FPA, the Flexible Packaging Association, has researched and they've reported on the fact that flexible packaging helps extend product shelf life. It can reduce product waste and it can offer benefits compared to other packaging formats. We have to think about it in terms of the front end. We're putting a lot of focus placed on circular design. So new feedstocks and technologies are emerging that are making it possible for us to create packages with sustainability. Then there's the production end, in which we take these feedstocks and we put them together, and we have to focus there on working through challenges. Somebody making a bag that's having to use new materials than they've used in the past, they have to make adjustments to their process. There's a learning curve that goes with that. And then finally, there's going to be influencing change for the packaging that the consumers use. Once it gets to the consumer, we need to make sure that they know what to do with it.
So Todd, you've talked a little bit about the industry, but what's the current reality of sustainability with consumers today?
The back end is where consumers see plastic and either know certain types cannot be recycled, they're doing it incorrectly, or they just toss it regardless. About 14% of the plastic packaging used globally makes its way to recycling plants, so that's a good thing. But only 9% is actually recycled. That's a bad thing. 1/3 is left in ecosystems, and about 40% of that ends up in landfills. And then finally, we need to make sure that we're doing more to put the infrastructure in place so that once we teach consumers what to do with the packaging, there is an avenue or a path for them to utilize that method.
It's 2019. Why are people still struggling to fully adopt the concept of recycling?
Well, consumer habits is a big part of it. If you always grew up in a world where you opened up the lid of a carton, used the product, and threw it away, it's something you're used to doing. It becomes habit forming. Recycling can be very confusing to consumers. I've been in packaging for almost 30 years, and every once in a while someone from my family come up to me and they say, "Can this be recycled?" And I look at it and I know, but I'm thinking, how in the world are they expected to know? There's a lack of consumer trust with some. We've seen packages along the years that have made claims that haven't been correct claims, and so that could be misleading. And then, as I mentioned, the infrastructure is really not set up everywhere. You can't expect the same type of recovery system in rural America that you can in some of our urban areas. The good news is that there is a willingness to change. About 75% of American adults say that they're concerned about helping the environment in their daily lives, yet only 1 in 5 conduct themselves in ways that help the environment all the time. Recyclable materials for all packaging components are just becoming available, and that's going to enable opportunities for grocery store drop-off and the how-to recycle programs that you're starting to see.
What's the difference between recyclability and compostability?
So if you understand the sustainability hierarchy, what we really want to do, the best option is to reduce utilization of our resources, to prevent overuse. Then we want to reuse materials where possible. And then comes recycling, because the benefit of recycling is if we can get a package that can be recycled, then we can recover those materials as new materials that can be used again. They become a resource. Composting comes after that, because the most that composting will ever be is a soil amendment. But when given the option between composting and waste going to a landfill, obviously composting is the way to go. So if I'm given a choice on whether I want to make something that's recyclable or compostable, I'm striving for recyclable, but compostable will be something that would be my next choice if I can't achieve recyclability.
From all of your involvement in the packaging industry and your research on this topic, how can we as brands, suppliers, manufacturers, and consumers make progress?
I think we're making progress. I mean, if you take an example, back in the 70s and 80s, who wore seatbelts? And it was something that we had to slowly integrate into our society. And now, I don't know about you, but if I get into a car and I don't put my seatbelt on, I feel like something's wrong. It just doesn't feel right. And we have to convey that same type of habit into how we utilize our packaging. The same can happen with sustainability. 3 out of 4 consumers are willing to pay for sustainable packaging. Some are even willing to pay more, especially certain groups like the millennials, which of course is a big demographic. We also think that consumer behaviors are going to be key to this. They need the education, they need the help from brands, from manufacturers, and suppliers. This means that we have to consistently convey sustainable messaging. We have to provide sustainable solutions, not just selectively, but broadly, categorically. We have to showcase on-pack messaging, and we have to create more convenient ways to recycle and recover. And then finally, there's an extended producer responsibility, or EPR, that as brands we'll hear more and more about. And that is that whose role is it to take charge? Whose job is it to take the responsibility of putting these tools in place? And it has to start with those that are making the product and marketing the product.
In the packaging industry, everyone saw the bare naked feature story in Flexible Packaging magazine. Tell me why projects like this are so important to FreshLock to be part of.
Well, so FreshLock has made recyclable products closures for over 30 years. The challenge has been is that we are a raw material component, and so when we marry our product up to what then becomes the pouch, many times the other materials that make up that pouch were not recyclable. So we've done other things along the ways in order to try to address sustainability. In 2008, we introduced our Green Spool program, and this would not be something the consumer would be aware of, but for brands and packagers that use materials, packaging materials, they would see that our zipper comes in on a spool, and now when the zipper is used up, the operator can take that empty spool and can put it into their warehouse, and the spools eventually get to be a certain size where we will send them back to the manufacturer. They're sanitized, they're inspected, and if they pass all of those steps, then they're put back into circulation to be used again. If for some reason they don't pass inspection, they're ground up to make a brand new spool. So it truly is a program that addresses sustainability. We've recently introduced our 8,000 series of closures, and those closures, in addition to being recyclable, are specifically customized to be compatible against some of the emerging technologies that we're seeing in films. So it's one thing to have a recyclable closure, it's another thing to have a recyclable closure that actually works well to make a pouch. And that's what the 8,000 series is designed to do.
But it's not all about a single supplier offering a sustainable solution, right? It takes all parties. What made this product so unique?
Well, the collaboration is the single most important part, and that's actually one of the Sustainable Developmental Goals from the 2030 Agenda is goal number 17, and that is partnership in the goals. And I believe it's probably one of the most important ones that we need to all focus on. It's not a matter of just doing things for your own company's benefit, but in order to make this work, we have to cross lines, and we have to work with everyone from the brand to the film supplier to the converter who's actually making the bag to the guy on the floor who has to run it. And it's about understanding what all of those needs look like and then building in and addressing those needs at the time of the design of the package. We had a partnership in the case of Bare Naked, which was fantastic. We have Berry Global, which is a top flexible packaging and packaging producer. Dow Chemical, who is a leader in the sustainability effort from a resin and feedstock standpoint. The Kellogg Company, which represents a very large and reputable brand committed to trying to move forward in sustainability. And Color Masters is one of the converters that made the film and can make pouches, and they do an excellent job with the printing. And just as it takes all the components of a package and multiple suppliers to collaborate, just like a child-resistant package, when we want the package to perform a certain way, the same is true with recyclable packages. One of the things that we have to be focused on, or several things we have to be focused on, are the package attributes. For example, the package performance. In this case, we wanted to package a cereal product. And in the past, that package would have been designed with non-recyclable materials. And they had to be designed in a way that they would protect the product, they would give it shelf life, keep it fresh, so that when the consumer purchased it, they had a good experience with the product. Now we had to do that same thing with a single source polyethylene film. And so the challenge is there is, how do I give the product those protective measures and those needs with just one single material? We had to utilize a recyclable zipper, which from our standpoint was something we were focused on, and it had to be compatible with those new types of film structures. Not all zippers can adhere properly to all films, and so it was important for us to work with our partners to make sure that the product that they wanted to put out married well with the product that we were putting out. And then finally, once we had a package, we submitted it to the Sustainable Packaging Coalition, who reviewed all the materials, the process, and then they gave us approval on the coalition's How to Recycle program. And we feel that that's a very important step in order to help to give consumers the education they need and to move a sustainable effort in packaging forward.
So after the Bare Naked pouch, what's next on the horizon for sustainability and flexible packaging?
Boy, that's a broad question. That's I don't know how much time you have here, but we have lots of opportunities. I think I'm seeing a lot in work with post-consumer recycled content, or PCR, in which we're trying now to take those recovered materials, such as something that we might have at in-store drop-off, and now we're saying, okay, what can we do with these materials? What will be the second life for these materials? Can we utilize them somehow in packaging? And a lot of brands and retailers are starting to implement their own programs where they have goals. They want to have so much percentage of a material to be PCR in their material. Now, we have challenges with that because obviously it has to be food safe. And so we can't always create materials that might make contact with the food. There needs to be a lot more education with recycled packaging, and I think How to Recycle is one example on how we can achieve that. But there are others. We see that from a compostable standpoint, that if you get a structure that you can't recycle, perhaps you can get a structure that can be compostable. And as I mentioned before, you have to find the infrastructure. So if I'm a consumer and I buy a pouch and it's compostable, what do I do with that? I can't bring it to the in-store recycle program. I can't put it at the curbside drop-off. And so we have to create the infrastructure for recovery. And then we need to find new ways to reuse. That's one of the things that closures is another benefit for what we do, is that by having reclosability, reliable reclosability in a package, you can add things like additional volume, the benefit of maintaining freshness over a longer period of time, and a container that you can continue to use more than once.
Todd, say I'm a brand manager or a packaging engineer looking to develop my own fully recyclable pouch. How do I get started?
Well, the first thing I would say is start small. Do it compartmentalized in a way that you don't have to look at it as a major ordeal. You have to look at it as something that you can control, you can measure along the way, and you can do it in a way that works well for your organization. I think you have to set a very realistic time frame. You have to collaborate with all of your suppliers. The supply chain has to be on board with what you want to do, what your objectives are. And you don't necessarily have to look at it in terms of reinventing the wheel. You don't have to repopulate your plant, your production plant, with brand new equipment. You can always outsource that production in the beginning. And I think you can turn it into a positive. If you did it in the form of a line extension, you can bring consumers' attention to the package. And it may be a way for you to not only add something exciting to the consumer experience and get attention from them, but possibly even something that you could cross into another aisle in the supermarket. And then finally, you got to track the feedback and the results to make sure that you can see the type of impact that you're having.
Todd, any closing thoughts to add?
Yeah, I would say that a message to the brand managers, the packaging engineers, and the consumer is that if you see a package in the store, you have the opportunity to be involved in a project surrounding sustainability, endorse it, embrace it, because we need that type of commitment from the brands, from the retailers, and from the consumers in order to keep this initiative growing. And I think it is going to grow, and I think that those that participate in it will thrive because of it.
Well, I think that's a great place to wrap things up. Todd, thank you so much for the stories and the information on the promising future of sustainable packaging. And thanks to all of you who took the time to listen. If you're looking for more information on sustainability and how it relates to your packaging strategy, we have some additional content for you. On this page, you will find links to a few articles on the topic. That includes considerations for the sustainably minded consumer and a story about how packaging choices can reduce food waste. We also encourage you to check out our ebook on consumer packaging trends, which includes even more sustainability insights. If you have questions, there's a contact form on this page. Don't hesitate to reach out to us at FreshLock. We're here to be your packaging partner and resource. On behalf of Todd Meussling and myself, thank you again for joining us.